We all go a little mad sometimes. We get you.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Horror Hour. My name is Yutaka. I'm one of the hosts here, and normally we discuss, debate, and disagree on all things horror. But today I'm really excited because I have Emma Fitzpatrick with me of her recent release, The Summoned. How are you today?
Hi, Yutaka. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for joining. It was a pleasure getting to meet you at Overlook, but it was also really great getting to see this film on screen.
Yeah, thank you so much for being there. We're super grateful for butts in the seats, but also you were just so warm afterward, and it's nice to see that people had a good time with it. So
yeah, the reviews I've been reading are really well. Personally, one of my favorite is just how you all had fun making this film, and it was clearly shown. So I'd love to know, with The Summoned, we'll go a little bit out of order, but with The Summoned, what was one of your favorite scenes to shoot?
One of my favorite scenes to shoot, I guess, I really like the stuff out. I mean, it's gonna be spoiler alert, but I guess the stuff outside in the final chapter.
Okay. That was a great scene. That was
stuff.
intense.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like getting to be with everybody in the same scene was really cool. Because there wasn't a ton of that. There was sort of some introductory scenes where you get a glimpse of everyone, but yeah, it was always cool every time everybody's bouncing off of each other, so strong group of actors. So it was very cool to get to play on all that stuff.
You all played off each other so well. That's what I really enjoyed, because it was a very small cast. So it relied heavily on you all, but also the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to talk, because I know during production, you guys went through some just outside forces when making this film. What was that like?
I mean, we were supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and it ended up being a full month because of the blizzard and because of, first somebody got COVID, and this was in the height of things, and we had undergone all of these precautions, and production had just done everything physically possible to get us all there safely and make it so that we could bubble together for this couple of weeks while we were shooting. And with a lower budget, they didn't have the opportunity to have everybody come 2 weeks ahead in quarantine.
Sure.
So we were all kind of rolling the dice. Everyone was tested regularly, but some snuck through. As we know, it was a very contagious disease. So as the panic of that was setting in, and we were trying to make sure, we were trying to quarantine those people and make sure that everybody else was safe, and kind of see what the future, if we were even going to be able to finish this film, and what that would look like. Right around then, a blizzard hit, and we didn't have any choice but to all be in the same home together. Luckily, it was a huge house, just this mansion log cabin on a lake. So there was room to distance if we needed to. But the power was in and out, and we didn't have any heat after a couple of, I think maybe the first day. The fireplaces went out because we had used all the propane to heat the hot tub for scenes, because the hot tub played in the scenes behind us. We had food, but it was slim pickings there at the end, because we were being brought food in every day from a craft service person who was basically dropping it off at the door for us for the duration of the shoot. So when the roads were snowed over, that wasn't an option anymore. So definitely had to get creative. There was just one full morning of, I think we had shots of Fireball for breakfast, because it was like, what else are we supposed to do?
I love it.
And there were inches of snow on the ground. So we're all playing out in the snow. And then, I think the reality of the situation probably hit after that. But it was a good time. It was an awesome crew. I had the gift of knowing a handful of them and working with a bunch of them in other projects before this. So I was really glad to get to go do anything with these guys. And then to get stuck in the woods in a blizzard and COVID was just a cherry on top, I guess. So
well, I also think too, you bring up the just being outdoors, or at least the hot tub scene. I want to talk also then about you all sitting around the fire and then finding out for myself that you were singing that, you all were singing that live.
Yeah, it sort of had to be. Just I think, especially with a micro budget, it's harder to record and make things sound like you're in the room, especially when you're outside, having that kind of ambiance and being able to capture that after the fact is really difficult. So luckily, Quentin is a fantastic performer. He was able to play the guitar for himself as well, which was great. The biggest challenge of that actually was the smoke from the fire. It was sort of I don't know if you've ever played White Rabbit when you're sitting around a fire, but it's like, just like always blows toward the person, who's trying to get away from it the most. And for whatever reason, when we were shooting that scene of just Quentin and I trying to sing it, the smoke, I mean, it was so bad I couldn't open my eyes for most of the scene. So I would wait until I knew I had a line or a reaction or something. And I would literally leave my eyes closed until I knew the camera was going to land on me, and then just try to like pop them open as much as possible until they started, crying again. So just was what it was. You gotta push through, and Q sounded amazing. Luckily I didn't have to sing as much of the song as he did, but it was an adventure for sure.
It was a moment that scene just, I remember seeing just like myself, I was entranced in theaters, and you could tell everybody was just kind of just
awesome. That's great.
It was a great moment.
Awesome.
And speaking of the film, I enjoyed the balance between, it was definitely more, it was genre, but it was more thriller through most of it. And then you got the horror aspect towards the end, but I loved the bits of comedy that you also added to kind of lighten up the story, because what really happens when you think about somebody who's willing to do whatever they want to be successful or famous?
Yeah, I mean, Angela definitely shines in the comedy aspect. She is just so brilliant. And Yuri Baranovsky, who wrote the film, they've worked together a ton. They're actually writing partners on a lot of projects. So he really knows her voice, and he just wrote this very, I'm not going to say easy, but I think Angela makes it look easy when she's in a role like that. And she's a very sane person, but she plays insane so well. Like it was we were cracking up on set, it's one thing to like see something like that in an edit, but she just, she makes murder look so funny. I don't know the other way to put it.
No, I agree.
I have the blessing of getting to sing at Angela and Mark's wedding this fall. And I was telling my parents that, and my dad watched the movie the other day and he actually walked into my house when I had it playing in the background, and he saw the scene where Angela chops me up, and he just said, I don't know if I would sing at that girl's wedding if I were you. I thought was apropos. Yes.
Okay.
But just speak to her acting chops. She's a lovely person.
I did get to speak with her and Mark, and they're
Awesome.
really great.
Yeah.
What I'd love to know, just what about the role attracted you to Joplin Rose?
Well, I definitely, I had seen like a pitch Bible for the film. So I knew what vibe they were going for, but truly Angela just, texted me and was like, we're shooting this movie. Can I send it to you? Would be interested. And I was just like, count me in. Like, I hadn't even read it yet. I was like, I'll follow you anywhere. I'll do whatever you're doing. So they're those kind of people. And luckily I've worked with Yuri before as well. And he wrote this character for me, which is such a gift, because I think, again, it's easy isn't the word, but it's natural in, he finds sort of your natural lilts in delivery. Like he knows where I'm best served dry and cold, and sort of gave Joplin this mystery. What I really loved about her by the time I read the final script was there are so many different truths to her, right? Like we don't know until the very, very end who she is and what is actually true of her. And so it was interesting to get to play somebody who the movie turns a couple of different times, right? And so it was like a reverse engineering of okay, here's the reality, and then here's the lie we were telling about that, and then here's the lie we were telling about that. So getting to sort of layer on, and then from the beginning, she is all knowing in this. She knows all those things from the beginning. And so how do you subtly indicate or not indicate? How do you not indicate that you know everything, but give some air of mystery and doubt? You have to make her doubtable. And she's such a strong, sort of charismatic presence that to cast seeds of doubt in her, it was fun. Yeah. Making her vulnerable. So.
No, I think you did a good job. Again, I can't say enough kudos for this film. And I said the same to Angela and Mark, because I did. I saw it on the screen, or saw a screener. And then because I loved it so much, I was like, when I went to Overlook, I have to see it on the big screen.
No way. You had already seen it before you went to Overlook? That's awesome.
Yes. So I was just
so sweet.
I was like, I need to see this. And it was another experience to see it on the big screen. It was so
super fun in the theater. Yeah.
Like the beats were hitting. You could see when people were laughing and having a good time, but you could see like, what the hell's going to happen next? And I love that. And this film really works with that. Awesome. And speaking of working with Angela, one of the films I wanted to talk about too is also Take Back the Night that you co-wrote and also started with Angela. And let's talk about, okay, let me just say this. That was a powerful fucking film.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Please, I'd love to know what brought this story about.
Yeah, so Gia Vangieri, I think she goes by Gia Elliott now. She and I were in a feminist book club together many years ago. And I think we had, as most actors find themselves at some point in Hollywood after a decade or so, there's, a little bit of, you get this itch to make something because there's a lot of sitting around and waiting for somebody to give you permission to be creative. So she had sort of proposed the idea to me, and she had a camera. She had some lighting rigs, and she was like, we should just write a tiny budget horror film. Since I had a little bit of a background in horror movies at that point as well. And we were talking about how to make something sort of female centric, something maybe with a message. And we were talking also a lot at the time. It was sort of right before Me Too, maybe like 2 years before the Me Too movement had become what it was. And we were talking a lot about what's the scariest thing we could think of was, or one of the scariest things we could think of was sort of the line between your own truth and what happens so often in abuse and sexual assault scenarios when outside influences change your own perception of your reality of something that had happened, or even what PTSD can do to your perception of reality, So this sort of line between the truth and other people's perception, and whether or not any of that matters, and how could we highlight something that could make people at least maybe give a second thought to judging or shaming somebody who has has been brave enough to come forward and say that they have been a victim of assault. So we didn't want to make, there are horror films that revolve around rape or sexual assault. And we thought that the scarier thing was what happens after an assault, which is this sort of devolution of your own support systems, whether it be your family or law enforcement or the judicial system, the media, your friends. And so like the plucking away of all of those things and casting shadows of doubt based on a victim's their grieving process. Are they grieving? Are they victim-y enough? What were you wearing? What are you wearing now? How do you present yourself to the world? All these things that shouldn't matter and shouldn't have anything to do with somebody's bodily autonomy being taken and their power being taken away from them. So yeah, I mean, we circled around that for a long time. We knocked out a script, and then we did take a couple of years to shoot the film, again, shoestring budget. And when we started, we were sort of just trying to shoot a proof of concept, maybe a trailer to get somebody interested. That ended up working. Marcus Dunstan, who directed and wrote the collection movies, and as well as, Saw 4, 5, and 6, and Feast, Piranha 3, Double D. He and I had become really good friends 8 or 10 years prior when I shot the collection. And he hooked us up with an investor, and he became an investor himself and an executive producer. So he was super instrumental in helping us get that off the ground. Very hands-off in terms of creativity and like, just going to let you ladies do what you do. So an amazing partner to have in that situation. And I'm super grateful to him for giving us that opportunity, because it's hard to get things made.
Absolutely. And I mean, I love independent horror, and I would have to say, watching that, not only is it a great horror film, but it is so much deeper than I think people realize, because I'm that person. I'll check people's reviews afterwards. I'm like, I don't think you understood it. I don't think you got it. But yeah. I think that some of the scariest thing is, or just in general, when something traumatic happens to somebody, let alone not being believed, but then being judged on your past or present. Yeah, that shouldn't have anything to do with you being the victim. And sure. it was very, like, I really enjoyed how that story was just told, and I don't think it was exploitative. It felt real.
Thank you. Yeah, we did. It was an interesting time, because I'm super interested in the subject material. I was sort of at the time giving myself a crash course on just like the neurobiology of trauma. Anyway, I don't know. I just like think if I hadn't gone to school for musical theater, I probably would have gone for psychology or something. It's just, it's the other thing that piques my interest. So we did a ton of research on that. It's super dark, but it just became all consuming. Like, it just became so important to tell that story, because once you get into the nitty gritty of the statistics of what that looks like, it's horrifying, and it's horrifying how many people don't know that. And I truly feel that if we were just more aware of what it looks like to be a victim of trauma, then maybe we could come to people with a little bit more empathy in those scenarios, and instead of jumping to judgment, maybe give a little more grace, or ask a few more questions of ourselves, or wait, why is that what I jumped to? Why is that the conclusion I jumped to, or whatever? So, for me, it was cathartic in that. And I think we had just wonderful responses in the sense of, wow, I didn't know that. I had never thought of it that way, or women or female identifying people coming forward and just saying, this is exactly what it felt like, and thank you so much. And it didn't feel exploitative. That is one of the greatest compliments you can be told, because we didn't want to just put on display this trauma. We wanted to make it empowering, make the heroine empowering at the end, and give some glimmer of hope, and maybe push a message across, if at all possible in that context. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for watching it. And I'm glad that anyone saw it and cared about it and was touched by it. So all worth it in the end.
It was, I was happy when I saw the trailer and I'm like, how have I never come across this? And so immediately I had to go and purchase it. And then when I did, I sat down and watched it and I thought, wow, like it reminded me very so much of another series that really touched me. It was on Netflix. I think it was called Unbelievable. And that was about just somebody where the justice system kind of pretty much convinced herself that, she wasn't attacked and she made it all up, and that whole story. And
I think I know the story that you're talking about. I didn't watch that, but I think it's the same. When we started writing this movie, it was like I think it was NPR maybe had done a piece on the same woman. So we definitely, that was a case study for what we were writing about. And we gleaned a lot from those literal things that happened to that woman and, made them metaphorical
it was horrifying. So yeah. But again, watching Take Back the Night, it was so well done. And I believe was it an all-female cast, I think, too?
All female identifying cast and mostly crew. We did have a lot of men behind the scenes, Marcus included, Gia's husband, David Elliott, who's a great film screenwriter, my boyfriend at the time. Just many men in all walks of it that just were allies and knew it was an important thing to talk about. But we, from the beginning, we wanted to make something where there was just, and again, this was before Me Too. And I think Hollywood has shifted a lot in making representation important. But we just thought like, this is heavily a women's story, unfortunately. And it should be focused on their experience. And I don't really care what the other has to say about it, was kind of do you know what I mean? Like, I
totally get it. And honestly, it was very appreciative. I love cinema, but I love when somebody wants to either use their work to, what am I trying to, I love it when it's supposed to have impact or meaning, and it's there. It's to entertain, but you should be thinking after it. It should create a discussion, because I think sometimes horror allows us to be able to get into that nitty gritty, because sometimes I just think it's the best way of storytelling, because sometimes you need that fantastical realm in a sense. Absolutely. So you can explain certain things that might be too hard to explain. So
it's a hard subject matter to approach, and the weight of the subject matter was definitely on us. We really wanted to get it right, and to be respectful and to honor the people that have gone through this. And it was super like, we had to be super delicate about things. And but it was great. It just you had to be so intentional about everything. So
that's amazing. And again, kudos, because I really enjoyed it. And again, to everybody, you all should just check that out. It's
appreciate it. Thank you.
A good film. The next, and we're going to get back to The Summon, but I do want to talk about two other films. One, because there was so much blood in it, and it's such a fun horror comedy, actually. Bloodsucking Bastards.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for bringing that up. I love this movie.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's one of the most fun films I've ever gotten to do. I think, man, it was that 2015, 2016. Pedro Pascal plays the head vampire. It's basically a vampire horror comedy that takes place in an office space scenario. I had worked with the producers on The Collection, and was lucky enough that they brought me in for this, because it was such a fun ride. Most of the other cast, Fran Kranz, obviously very popular in the film world, or in the horror film genre. But the other cast most of them were part of this like comedy improv troupe out in Los Angeles called Dr. God. And so they all had this like repertoire and this banter and like a groove with each other. And I was super intimidated on the first couple of days, but there's some of them are still like, I talk to them on a regular basis, and many, many years later. Just a lovely group of people. It was so much fun, so bloody. I got to like cool stunts and and just be head to toe covered in blood most of the time. But I actually got to see Pedro recently at the LA premiere for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which awesome. which another friend of mine had written, and he is still just the loveliest human being. He was such a joy to work with on that film. And that was, we shot that basically right before his meteoric rise to fame, because I think Game of Thrones came out like a couple months later or whatever. So he was, the biggest star in Hollywood, not 2 years later. So to see that he's still the same, like, lovely human being is really heartwarming. It's not always the case. So
that makes me happy because he's about to star in a series. I will be I'm heavily invested because I remember playing the video game. So, and I love that The Last of Us.
Oh, cool. I think I saw a blurb about that.
It's probably one of the best games, I would have to say, because they really also emphasize story. And so I'm curious to see it brought to life. But I love that they're changing. It's more diverse cast, and I'm just like, oh, it's going to be good. I know, but it's awesome. Nice to hear that about him because, man, I loved Bloodsucking Bastards. I think it might still be on Showtime. If not, I mean, it was just such a hidden gem.
Amazon it or something. Yeah, I don't feel like it ever got the legs it should have. It was so funny.
It's hilarious, and I can be a gore hound sometimes, and there is so much blood. But
it's like funny blood,
Yes.
It's not like, I mean, some of it's like really gross and you turn your face away, but it's meant to be, it's all over the top and like meant to be.
Yeah, it was almost to a camp vibe, but I was loving it because you could tell you all were just having a great time in those roles.
It was awesome.
And then I guess it's really nice to hear that you've kind of still been involved with the folks from the collection, because I will say that's where I first noticed you. But I'd also have to say you were just so good in the role. I love the series, but you stood out, and I just feel like it's great seeing that you're still connected with those people and still making projects.
Absolutely. Marcus and the producers of that film have hired me more times in my career than anyone. Like, they've just given me job after job after job. So it's the highest compliment to not only like love who you work with, but to be hired again is just, they trust you with with the role, with their project. So yeah, that is like, of my whole career, that's the highest compliment, is just to be asked back over and over again. So,
well, honestly, and you in that role, I love Josh Stewart. I love the collector and the collection. You just became like the heart and soul of a series that I was not expecting to have. There were so many times in that movie, I was like, I swear, if they kill her off, I'm going to riot.
Well, Marcus sort of solidified my place as a final girl in that film, because I don't think, once you've been put in that role, I don't know that you can go back. And so it's sort of just where I'm always cast from there on out. But that was actually it was my first feature film that I had a lead in. So I was probably not quite a year into Los Angeles yet. I had a really cool, lucky break, getting to do The Social Network just a few months after landing in Hollywood. So I had worked with Fincher and Aaron Sorkin already. And
that's huge.
Yeah. And hilariously, the story that Brett Forbes, who's one of the producers, and Marcus both told me, I think maybe even like a year after we had shot the collection, when the film was about to come out, and we were all still so much in love with each other and with the movie, and Marcus said, well, you know how we found you, right? Because I had done this one thing, and it was like for a minute and a half I was in the movie. So and you know, commercials and like little
Of
things
course,
there,
yeah.
but I didn't have a name. And so Marcus said that he went to see the Social Network on its opening weekend, and he came into the production meeting that following Monday morning, and he said, I found the girl, because they had been holding auditions for Elena. And Brett said, no, I found the girl. And they both had seen the Social Network that weekend. And for whatever reason, I don't know if Fincher just lit me so beautifully or whatever it was, but they were like, that's her, and I think, you know, it was the look that they were looking for. The short hair definitely had its own like defiance built into it. And I think I was just like young and new enough that my vulnerability was just like leaking out of my pores, you know? So that was a really difficult shoot for me. I think most horror films are difficult just because the physical and the emotional toll of them is sort of nonstop. You have to remain afraid for 3-4 weeks for 14 hours a day at a time is it's difficult. And if you're faking it, it comes across on screen. And I really wanted to do a good job with that, because I knew that I was being handed this opportunity to show what I was capable of. And so it really was this like awesome horror film boot camp of just like, how long can you remain extremely vulnerable and truthful? And I feel like after that, everything else was sort of, I was able to compare it to that and say like, well, I know where this muscle is. I know where this emotional muscle is in me. So I know how to like access it and get back there. So, yeah.
I mean, it's still one that I think people still talk about. I know I do. I still go back to it and watch.
Cool. Yep. We're all upset about the third one. So.
Oh, yes, we are.
Myself included, but the last I've heard, it's not dead in the water. It's just tied up in a bunch of legal stuff.
Fingers crossed, because I remember when it was first, you know, announced like subtly and started to build all that. And of course, then, you know, COVID happened and then other stuff happened. I was just like, that's a bummer. But I am happy though, because I did, you know, I think you're still getting to do great work. So, I mean, yes, I want to see the role of Elena come back, but I think people also just need to check out Take Back the Night and definitely The Summoned, because again, it was one of my favorite films from Overlook. And you guys had such a great panel. That's the other thing. You know, I think as you said, takes a lot to get a film off the ground. And so to all the filmmakers that came there, I was very appreciative. But you guys just had fun with the questions in the audience and just talking about the film. Like, you were proud of what you put out there. And I think that says a lot.
Yeah, there's, I can't exaggerate enough, like the quality of human beings involved in that film. And it's important, especially how old am I? So like 13 years into my film career, you know, maybe 5 years ago, I just started having this feeling of like, because no matter what job you do, you're gonna have to work with assholes. Like that's just
that's fair.
The matter. But I think I started personally just thinking like it's got to be possible to do this without dealing with like sociopaths and without dealing with people that will screw you over or, you know, undermine you or try to whatever. It just there's a lot of moving pieces and parts, and the business itself can be very devastating to be a part of, especially as a sensitive artist. You know, we just at the core, like you just want to make things and you want to create and you want to put your heart and soul into something. And then unfortunately, we have to be savvy business people as well, especially if you are going to be an independent filmmaker, and how to protect yourself and surround yourself with really truly quality human beings, like people that are good at what they do and have good intentions and will tell you the truth, and will bring everything earnestly to the project. So I was Obviously it was COVID and nobody had worked for a while. So I was very excited to be able to do something, but especially with this group of people. And that's why before I had even read it, I just said, yes, whatever you want, I'll do it. Like, so, and hopefully, that's something that, I'll get to do again with this group of people. I mean, again, to be asked back ever is the highest compliment. So
I kind of hope so. I would love to see, there could be spin-off. There's just so much about this story that could branch out into others. And I would love to see that. Also, I love in the image behind me. I feel bad that I should really be covering, the guy, Salvador, because I called him a dick when I met him. I was like, you played a really good one. You were so awful. And, but I loved your character.
He's
the
great.
Paintings and the way that those shifted throughout the story. I just loved that little detail.
Yeah.
And just some of the shots that were pulled off, they were just, again,
it's a beautiful film. Like we could tell even before color correct, we'd watch dailies in the basement on like a big TV screen. And even just like the raw footage, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Like this is going to be so pretty.
It is.
Justin, Mark Morrison and Gray Morrison, not related. They're both just so talented. The whole crew was just top notch at what they do. And so it's rare that you get in a situation where everybody is that good at what they do and they're lovely people. So it was a trip.
Well, and also speaking of that, because I knew, well, I actually also didn't know that you wrote the song.
Yeah,
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Is it I do? Now I'm
if I do.
I was just listening to it earlier too, because I already bought it because I was that person at Overlook. I'm like, you guys said it was going to be released. I was like, I was like, I want to know when you're releasing that. I truly did. But I want to talk about that song because that song is, well, one, it's sultry, but it's so good. And then
thank you.
We'll talk about the music video in a second how did the writing process for this song come about?
Yeah, this was, I mean, I have been a songwriter for a long time, so I was excited to be given, the challenge and the opportunity. I've actually, in a couple of projects that I've done, I've been in that same position, and it's scary because it's like a lot of pressure to deliver, but ultimately so satisfying to like have that be woven into to be so involved in the creative process and that, and like to set a tone. So yeah, they had given me a Spotify playlist of songs that they thought were of the genre or the mood or the vibe.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, this is what we're looking for. We obviously cannot afford these songs. If you would like to write one, we would be grateful. And then, trying to be a savvy businesswoman, I thought, well, this would be a good opportunity to not only when the film comes out to promote the film, but to promote the song and be able to tie these things together. And you sort of just do-si-do off of each other's publicity and fan bases. So I thought it'd be a cool way to just bring people's attention to the music that I've already been making for a long time. So, I knew the vibe they were going for. I wanted to write something that could be because it was supposed to be Elijah that had written it. And so I wanted it to be something that could be from his voice, that would fit the intention of what he was experiencing, but not be entirely on the nose. I didn't want it to be like, just a straightforward telling of their story. And also, oddly enough, in the movie, it's supposed to be Elijah that wrote it for Jocelyn Rose. So how could it be in his voice writing it for her voice? So it was, again, a reverse engineering. And I ended up kind of going with in this movie, he's screwed. He's literally damned to hell if he chooses her. And he's damned if he doesn't choose her, if he chooses himself. So, on the nose in terms of that, but then cheeky enough to be written from the viewpoint of from Eve when she meets the serpent, and now it's too late. She's eaten the apple and she knows everything and she can't unknow it. So either way, she's screwed was kind of the thought.
It was good. It's so good. And the music video, that is so luscious.
Oh, thank
you. The vibe, oh my gosh. I want to know who did your makeup. I want to know how you did the costume, like the lighting.
Yes.
All of that. Sorry, I'm a huge fan of that music video.
No, I'm so grateful. That was one of the first things that I have from conception. I made music videos with my old band, but I was able to be the creative director on this. I got to co-direct on it. I produced it. Wow. The makeup artist was actually super instrumental in developing these looks. But I had the, again, I didn't want to be super on the nose with this music video. I didn't want it to be Eve in the garden. So I thought, what would it look like to pull a couple of women from history and fiction that have met their demise at the hands of someone or something that they fell in love with. So Marie Antoinette popped in my head first. I juggled around with like Ophelia, Little Red Riding Hood, some of that, but landed on Eve, of course, Marie Antoinette, Hester Prynne from the Scarlet Letter. And then for my sort of performance shots as myself, I wanted to just allude to this like film noir sort of character.
So beautiful.
So yeah. And the director is, again, this is about bringing in people that I just really trust as people. They're good friends who happen to be incredible at what they do. Travis Nicholson, who I co-directed it with. I've known him for over a decade. He's a Nashville guy who we actually both lived in LA for the same amount of time. And then we both moved back here around the same time. So I was fortunate enough that he was here and he hooked me up with an amazing DP, Ryan Featherston, who just is like an ace at lighting and brought just a ton of gear and made this, he brought the production value up just tens of thousands of dollars because I did not have that to shoot it. But him owning all this equipment and being so savvy, he was able to make it look like the thing that was in my head, So I challenged myself to sort of make a really detailed pitch deck for this, a visual Bible of like, these are the people we're going to be exploring. And this is the color scheme I want each one of them to be in. And this is when I want the lights to shift. And there's this apple throughout. So
I love that detail, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. I thought it would be a cute little, a cute little metaphor, like it's still campy and over the top and flirty and fun, but I am so pleased with how it turned out. Michael Hart, who did the makeup, he was just so instrumental in helping me get all of that together. And all of the looks I thought were like, they were just so brilliant. And he's actually an artist himself. His artist name is Mikey, Meiki.
Okay.
Maybe two eyes at the end. So he's an incredible artist himself. And then he happens to be a makeup artist. So he just brought so much life to all of those. Cause I can like do a wing on my eye, so it would have suffered for sure if I was trying to make any of that look authentic, and I thought the Marie stuff was just so cute.
Beautiful.
We had done all this research about like, she has the little heart on her cheek, and he had done all this research about what those actually meant, I guess, in the French court at that time. They placed them in different places based on like what they meant. Like I'm single, or I'm down to pound. What? Or yeah. So they signaled all these different things.
I'm learning something here.
Yeah. So just incredible artists that I got to work with, who gave me a couple of days of their time and talent. And I'm tickled with how it turned out, and to have something that it looks like the thing that was in your head is so rare in this industry. So I'm very proud of it. Thank you for bringing it.
I didn't know you were so hands-on with it. That's amazing because again, no joke to the people watching, listening, it is such a gorgeous video. And then to hear your vocals and everything, like it just paints this, I wouldn't say amazing. It's still horrible because they all suffer in a sense, but the tale that it just tells is, oh, you can follow it and it's beautiful. Like, oh my gosh,
thank you. Thanks for watching it.
Yeah, I will link that below, but I can't give that enough kudos because I loved the song, but then when I saw the video, I'm just like,
thank you.
What is this?
I'm so pleased.
Yeah, I had to show my other co-host, which I feel bad. So with Overlook, which I'll pivot to that though. I was lucky enough to actually get to go because I'm the only one in the States. They're all elsewhere. So they didn't get to actually see any of these films. So I felt bad, but I didn't because I still got to see them. But with being at Overlook, and I'd like to know what was your experience there in terms of, did you get to see any other films, interact with any other artists?
I didn't go to a lot of other films. I just missed Sissy, which I don't know if you got to see that one, but is her name Emily or Emma?
Oh, Emily. She's so sweet.
She's incredible. So yeah, I mean, it was a great place to hobnob with other really excited filmmakers who we're all doing this by the seat of our pants and with a lot of gumption. So it was really cool. The festival itself, just like so welcoming, really took care of us and made it a fun experience. I hadn't been to New Orleans before. So if I'm honest, I was drunk for 4 days.
I love it.
just eating the best seafood, like oysters for breakfast, not the best when you're hungover, but I did like a crawfish omelet. You know, I was just there to eat like a queen and yeah, just traipse through that amazing city. So that was my first time to really like get to experience it. So
yeah, I'm jealous. It was my first time, but I was like, oh, I've got to see all these films. And so everyone's like, oh, we're going to go party. I'm like,
I left that up to Angela and Mark and the rest of the crew. I was like, I shook hands, I kissed babies. I'm going to go have a good dinner now. So
you all sounded like you had a great time. Yeah. And I can't wait for you to see Sissy.
Yeah, it won the audience award, didn't it? Yeah, it looked amazing.
Actually, this is my other great thing, I would say. It's since COVID, this would probably be the first time that I really got to be in a theater with because here I live in a red state in Missouri. And so everything was open, but nobody, like it was dead. Yeah. So it was nice to be in those areas and to see all of them just give back to the screen. I've missed that. And like I saw that with your film, with Sissy. I think The Black Phone and I think Resurrection were times where people kind of yelled at the screen, and I love that.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, so it was great to be there and have that experience. And again, it was my first time also just why it might be natural for everyone. I don't know, because I know you all are people, but I was incredibly nervous just saying hi to anybody.
Wow, no, yeah, not necessary at all. And it was awesome to meet you. It's like to come out of a theater and just see a smiling face and somebody who had a good time is like the most you can hope for. So
again, for those, The Summoned was such a fun film. I went in blind. I didn't know anything about it. Overlook was just like, hey, here are the films. If you want to see them in advance, I go, okay, well, just whatever you can give me, I will, sit at home and do my best to watch all of them. Cool. And so there were 4 films that I had seen previously, but I was like, they were just so good. The Summoned included. It's like, I have to see them on the big screen. And it didn't disappoint at all. So
we're super grateful.
My final question, I've got 2 maybe final questions. And again, just thank you for sitting here and chatting with me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
With horror, especially independent horror, it's been really great this year. I would love to know within the past 365 days, what has been a good moment in horror for you? Could be a movie, could be a villain, could be anything.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I didn't see Mandy until this year. I know it didn't come out this year.
No, that's
but
okay.
That blew my mind. And that's just the first thing that is jumping out at me. I thought Nick Cage is back. I thought, what a cool world. What a cool, I think that's that director's only film as well.
I'll have to double check, but
yeah.
It was a good film. Like, I love Nicolas Cage when he does horror because he goes full on and it's so good.
Yeah, it set me off on a Nick Cage tour. I was like, I don't care what it is. I gotta watch it. I don't care how bad it is. But yeah, that to me, I don't know, what's something, I guess, in the mainstream that you've seen.
I loved Malignant because so many people hated it. And I just thought it was wild that I think it was James Wan's wife who wrote it.
It looks too scary. I haven't watched that.
It's actually so camp. It really is. It's very because the really hardcore horror were just like, I don't get it. The other people are like, I don't get it. Meanwhile, I'm like, this is just meant to have fun. It can be scary, but it's so over the top and it's very giallo-esque that it was just after I saw it, I go, I want to know how he got this made because I'm sure he's had $1 billion flick. I'm sure he just went in there and said, hey, this is what I want to do. Give me the money. Yeah. I'm like, sure. But it's just so insane. And at times you're laughing. And I think that's part, like, I don't think people are meant to laugh.
If you vouch for it, I'm going to watch it. I'm writing it down.
I'm just letting you know, yes, it can be scary, but it's just so over the top. And there are moments where I ended up laughing. Was like, what is going on? Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah.
So it's gory. I'll tell you that.
I also watched Candyman this year in the last 365 days, the new one, the Jordan Peele one. Have you seen that one?
Oh my gosh. Nia DaCosta she is going places with the way she directs. The film was stunning.
It was amazing. So beautiful. Very scary. That's actually one of the films, I would say, for about 10 years, I didn't watch a single horror movie from like 14 to 24. And the only reason I started watching them again is because Marcus made me as prep for the collection. And one of the reasons was I watched Candyman when I was like 13, 14 years old, and it scared the pants off of me. And I said, never again. I don't like this feeling. I don't want to have this anxiety every time I go to the bathroom that somebody's going to jump out the mirror at me. I'm going to accidentally say it 3 times. So really cool to see that the newer version and be able to sit through it, I guess. I've grown as
yes.
Yeah.
I would then, with my final question, I would just like to know what's next.
Ooh. Well, I don't know if I can talk much about it, but I am doing another project with Angela before the end of this year.
I think they alluded to something of that, so that's exciting to hear.
Yeah, there are things a cooking. So I'm writing a couple things myself too. So hopefully, these things take time, but hopefully in the next year or so, we'll be working on that as well, getting that on its feet. So there it is.
That's exciting. I mean, honestly, you as a creator, as an artist, I wish you the best of success because again, you've put out such great content. And again, this, we're a small channel, but we just appreciate it. And again, we champion these films that
thank you for telling hard for. Thank you for telling people about what we've worked so hard on. And, it is a high compliment to have somebody that has enjoyed what you've spent so much time pouring your heart and soul into. And so we truly very grateful, and you are so sweet. And I'm just really, really grateful to have gotten to talk to you. So.
Well, I will just say thanks to everyone watching and listening. It's been a blast, and until next time. And also go see The Summoned. It's already out, so you can rent it, you can purchase it.
Go see it, and rate and review it, because this algorithm, especially when this
algorithm's awful.
When you're on something low budget, and it's the same way with music for independent musicians. it takes very little time to, follow somebody or heart their music or their movie or even a bad rating is still, it gets it into this.
It's an interaction.
The place that more people see it. And that's the only way that we get another opportunity to make things is when the people that have given us a chance in the first place see that we can deliver. So if you have the time, whether or not you enjoyed it, let people know that you watched it, and we would be super grateful. So,
well, I'd be shocked. I get annoyed when I see people who give bad reviews because they didn't understand it, but that's okay. Because again, interaction. But yes,
5 stars only. 5 stars only.
Yeah. Go out, go see this, and just give it a rating. I personally, it deserves it. I can't wait. I will tell you, because we had to review everything while we were there. You could only give it. I ripped the 5 for this. This was a 5 out of 5. So for me, that's how much I enjoyed it. So
bless you. You're so kind.
But again, until next time, everyone, thank you so much.
You have been listening to the Horror Hour. See you next time.